Welcome to Weathering the Storms of Life with the Rains. It's Rob Rains, Sally Tippett Rains with you for another edition of our program here as we kind of wind down the quiz programs with everything back opening up in St. Louis and St. Louis County. First of next week, we decided to kind of wrap these quizzes up after tomorrow's quiz, but we've enjoyed doing them.
They've been a lot of fun.
So you have
Hope
some,
you've enjoyed watching them.
did do a radio interview today and got the host there to tell me that he has enjoyed them. So I know people have been paying attention to them. Also, we're up on the site today. We've got a couple other stories related to baseball. We've got a Zoom call that we did that we taped last night with several other media members of the St. Louis community and got some opinions and analysis and predictions about what they think is going to happen with the talks going on in New York on the labor front between the union and the owners. And then just posted a feature story about Rob Kaminsky, who was in the Cardinals big league spring training camps, a non-roster player, kind of personifies the limbo land a lot of players are in right now as far as not knowing what's going to happen.
I thought both of those were interesting. The Rob Kaminsky story is really fascinating just because we don't realize how much this whole work stoppage pandemic situation is affecting every different aspect of baseball. And also, the roundtable you did was fun because
Yeah,
one of the people on the panel said it was the first intelligent baseball conversation they've had for a week. So that was fun. But who was all on that?
it was Frank Cusimano, Stan McNeil, Bob Ramsey, Mike Reeves, and myself.
It's worth
Yeah,
listening.
check out both those out elsewhere on the site. You have some words of wisdom for us for the day?
Well, my words of wisdom for today is kind of goes along with the sheltering in place, and that is just be appreciative of right where you are today. Bloom where you're planted, do what you can with what you can where you are. We're stuck in this situation. Even when it starts to open up, it's best to be more cautious and careful. And I've noticed a lot of people doing things with their houses. They're fixing their yards up. You know, maybe before we had aspirations of, going out, doing other things, and now we're getting to appreciate where we are in our house, our family, and what we can do. There's a
Right.
lot of exciting things you can do in the situation you're in. So that's just basically what I want to do is encourage you.
Great. Today's questions, as we say, get near the end of our program, we're going to do some numbers. These are kind of numbers that every Cardinal fan should know, but kind of like in the grained in the back of your head. So maybe a little bit easier
You shouldn't
questions
know
here
what
than
you hoped.
some
You
of
hope
these.
you'll
These
get
are
it.
these are easy. So some of these may be a little bit easier than some of the other quizzes that we've had before. So we'll go on to the questions. We'll go through the 10 questions and then come back and give you the answers.
Question one: how many world championships have the Cardinals won in their history? How many total world championships have they won?
Question 2, what was Bob Gibson's record-setting ERA for the 1968 regular season?
Question three: how many home runs did Mark McGwire hit in his historic 1998 season? We actually had that number on our license
We
plate
did for a while.
afterwards. Yeah.
Well, we joked that Mark McGuire bought us a van because one of the books that I did bought that van because
Three of the books you
yeah, but the one that I did that made the most money gave us enough
It was
money
on the bestseller list,
yeah,
yeah.
just to go out and buy a new van. So back in the day. So, question 4: the only pitcher in team history to win 30 games in a season. Who was that? The only pitcher to win 30 games in Cardinals franchise history.
Question five: who's the only Cardinal to hit 400 in the regular season? And he did it 3 times.
Question 6: speaking of great hitters, how many batting titles did Stan Musial win in his career? How many batting titles? How many times did he lead the league in batting average?
Question seven: how many gold gloves does Yadier Molina have?
Question 8: when Lou Brock broke the record for most stolen bases in a season in 1974, what was the total number he finished with that year? The total number of steals that Lou Brock had in 1974.
Okay, the ninth question: who is the only player in Cardinals franchise history to ever wear jersey number 99?
And question 10, final question for today's quiz. What round did the Cardinals draft Albert Pujols in 1999? What round draft pick was Albert Pujols by the Cardinals in the 1999 draft, amateur draft?
Okay, the first question I'll say was easy. We won 11
I would say most of these
11
are easy.
World Series.
I bet you knew almost all of these. Yeah. 11 World Championships for the Cardinals, obviously. That's number 1. Question 2, we've referred to this in some of the previous quizzes as well. Bob Gibson's ERA for 1968, 1.12.
And our license plate said Big Mac 70.
Mhm.
And it was funny because I remember there was a lot of people had license plates that had something about that.
The only pitcher to win 30 games for the Cardinals in the team history, Dizzy Dean, won 30 games in 1934. Era of the Gas House Gang.
Who was the only Cardinal to hit 400 in the regular season, and he did it 3 times? Rogers Hornsby.
All during the 1920s. Stan Musial won 7 batting titles in his career, led the league in hitting 7 times.
How many gold gloves has Yachty won? 9. That's a lot.
That's a lot. Lou Brock's stolen base record is 118. He broke Maury Will's record of 104 when he stole his 105th base in that season in '74, but then went on to finish the year with 118.
I wanted to go back to Yachty and ask you your memories of how do you feel about covering Yachty as opposed to other catchers you've seen?
Well, I mean, he's obviously among the very best in terms of his ability to play. I mean, I think he's not as comfortable probably talking in the media maybe as some of the other guys like Mike Matheny, like Ted Simmons, where I didn't cover Simmons all that often as a player, but I got to know him much better after his playing career was over when he was the farm director and then as the GM of the Pirates and now as a scout for various teams that see him in the press box all the time. So, but Yachty is always very, very good with his opinions when you get to him. He understands that he has an obligation to talk at certain points during the season, and yeah, I think he's one of those guys that does have a kind of a flair for the dramatic. If you look at his postseason success and some of the big hits he's had and big moments that he's had during the playoffs, even as recently as last year against the Braves in that first round. So
he's a fan favorite, but he's
absolutely.
also seems to be widely respected by his teammates and other teams.
I mean, I think if there was, they don't have an official captain of that team, but I think if they did have one, he would definitely be it. And a catcher needs to be that, really. I mean, that kind of was the role that Matheny had as well. I mean, you are kind of the field general out there. You see the whole field in front of you. He's a de facto pitching coach. He helps with the defensive alignments. I mean, there's so many things that he contributes to that team beyond just his ability to play at a high level. All right, the only player in franchise history to wear uniform number 99 was, of course, their Japanese import, So Taguchi.
And I wish I had brought it upstairs because
have
we
one.
actually have a number 99 signed by So, because he was actually when the Lindbergh High School marching band was trying to raise money to go to the Rose Parade. So Taguchi and his wife Amiko were very helpful with that because he was very interested. I think he played in the marching band when he was a kid, and he was very interested in it, and so he helped us. He provided Ted Drews one time. They brought some up. Came to a fundraiser. So yeah,
the Bowling Hall of Fame. So yeah, so that was so. And then the last question, Albert Pujols, of course, drafted in the 13th round. And people look at the draft as an inexact science. How could a player like Albert Pujols, who can be a first ballot Hall of Famer, not get selected in the draft until the 13th round? I mean, there were a lot of reasons. He had moved to the United States, to the Kansas City area when he was in high school, out of the Dominican Republic, so people didn't have a long history of scouting him. They were unsure about what position he would play in the big leagues. It wasn't a very fast player. There were questions, obviously, that have been well documented about how old he actually was. So I think all of those factors, he just played, 1 or 2 years of high school baseball and then 1 year of a junior college in Kansas City. So I think all of those factors contributed to why he didn't go until later in the draft. So
I hope everybody enjoyed today's quiz.
yeah, thanks again for tuning in. We'll be back with the final edition of the quiz program, Weathering the Storms of Life with the Rangers, tomorrow here on STLSportsPage.com as well as RainbowsForKids.org.